In the vast wilderness of a world untouched by modern civilization, where the dense canopies painted patches of the sky unseen, and the air hummed with the symphony of unnamed creatures, she found herself hopelessly lost. She was an anomaly, a creature of grace and beauty unlike any terrestrial being. Her silken fur glowed faintly under the twilight. Her eyes shimmered with the vivid colors of a distant nebula. Her name was Alira, a voyager from the stars who had crash-landed on this lush, uncharted planet after a catastrophic failure of her spacecraft. The crash had left her wounded, with a sharp pain gnawing at her side and a creeping weakness that threatened to pull her into the embrace of the dark, rich earth beneath her. Days turned into endless cycles of day and night, as Alira struggled to navigate the treacherous terrain. Her technologically enhanced senses, once a marvel of interstellar travel, were now dulled by injury and the dense bioelectromagnetic fields of the planet. Without her navigation module, which had been damaged in the crash, every tree looked the same, every river seemed to loop back on itself, and every hill promised salvation, only to offer more desolation. As despair began to set in, fate intervened in the most unexpected form, a human. This planet was supposed to be uninhabited, a mere blip in the expansive catalog of the cosmos. Yet here he was, a figure clad in the rough textiles of a primitive settler, his face marked with the lines of hardship and the spark of curiosity. He found her at the edge of a clearing, her body partially hidden by the underbrush, her breaths shallow and labored. His initial reaction was one of shock, his eyes wide as he took in her otherworldly appearance. But compassion swiftly overtook his surprise. He approached her slowly, hands outstretched in a universal gesture of peace. "Hey, easy there," he said softly, his voice a soothing balm. "I'm not going to hurt you." Alira's instincts screamed to flee, to escape this unknown, but her body refused to comply. Instead, she watched him, her gaze flickering between wariness and faint hope. He knelt beside her, his movements deliberate, showing her an open palm. "I'm called Tom," he introduced himself, as if knowing her ability to understand might be a gamble. "You look hurt. Let me help you." Tom's dwelling was a simple structure, made of wood and stone, nestled against a backdrop of towering trees. It was here that he carefully carried Alira, setting her down on a makeshift bed of furs and old patched blankets. His home was Spartan, with few possessions, but each one had a purpose, a testament to a life of survival and resilience. As the days passed, Tom tended to her wounds with an array of pastes and poultices made from the local flora, which surprisingly accelerated her healing process. Their communication was a dance of gestures and expressions, a mutual learning of trust and understanding. Alira learned that Tom was a researcher, left behind from a forgotten expedition, his companions either gone or lost to the whims of this mysterious planet. Together, they explored the enigma of their circumstances. Alira, with her knowledge of the stars and the technologies of her people, and Tom, with his expertise in the biology and environmental patterns of the planet. It was a partnership forged in necessity, but strengthened by a budding friendship. As Alira's strength returned, so did her desire to repair her spacecraft and return to the cosmos. Yet a part of her wondered about the bonds she was forming, about the human who had saved her, and about the call of this wild, beautiful planet that had so unexpectedly become her sanctuary. Unbeknownst to both, their time together was drawing the attention of other forces, both terrestrial and beyond, intrigued by the presence of an interstellar being on such a primitive world. As the stars watched silently from above, the story of Alira and Tom was just beginning to unfold. Under the cover of night, Tom and Alira sat by a crackling fire, maps and digital holograms intermingling with the shadows of the flickering flames. Tom pointed to a region marked by jagged peaks and dense forests, his finger tracing a possible route to a site where he believed Alira's spacecraft might have scattered critical components. "Over here," Tom said, tapping on the hollow display which shimmered with topographical lines and data points. "I noticed anomalies in this sector during my surveys last year. Never figured it out until now. Could be pieces of your ship." Alira leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she analyzed the data. The energy signatures correlate with my ship's core components. If we retrieve them, I might be able to synthesize the necessary repairs. Plans took shape in the soft glow of technology and firelight. They decided to set out at first light, knowing the terrain would challenge them, but the rewards could potentially secure Alira's path home. As dawn broke, they packed supplies into Tom's rugged homemade vehicle, a contraption more suited to the rough landscapes than any modern vehicle. The engine sputtered to life, coughing out a cloud of smoke before settling into a steady hum. Alira admired Tom's ability to adapt and create with whatever materials he found, a stark contrast to her reliance on advanced technology. Their journey led them through the heart of the wilderness, across bubbling streams, and under the watchful eyes of curious creatures. Tom navigated with an instinctive feel for the land, while Alira monitored the energy readings, directing him towards stronger signals. They reached the base of the mountains by midday, the vehicle struggling over the steep, rocky paths. Here, they proceeded on foot, climbing higher as the air grew thin and the forest gave way to bare rock and thinning patches of snow. As they ascended, Alira paused, her hand to her side where an old wound lingered with dull persistence. Tom noticed her discomfort. "Take it slow," he advised, his voice laced with concern. "We can't afford any mishaps." Alira nodded, her pride stinging slightly at her vulnerability. However, her training as a voyager had taught her the importance of resilience and adaptation, traits that Tom embodied in his every action. The anomalies in energy grew stronger as they approached a cavern, half hidden by ancient stone and creeping vines. Tom's eyes lit up with excitement mixed with a hint of anxiety. "This is it," he whispered, as if afraid to disturb the slumbering secrets of the place. Inside, the cavern opened up into a vast space, the walls aglow with phosphorescent moss. Amongst the natural splendor, stark against the soft green light, lay fragments of Alira's ship. They gleamed with a metallic sheen, etched with symbols of her people, telling stories of distant galaxies. Tom watched in awe as Alira approached the fragments, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched a piece of her past, so far from where it had begun. Her expression was a mix of sorrow and determination. "We need to move these pieces back to your workshop," Alira said, turning to Tom with a resolute look. "Can your vehicle handle the weight?" Tom nodded. "We'll make it work. We always do." As they worked to move the heavy components, the sky darkened prematurely, clouds rolling in with a sudden chill. A storm was brewing, not just in the skies, but in the tension of their task, the pressure of time against them, and the unknown variables of Alira's presence on this isolated planet. By the time they loaded the last piece, rain was pouring, thunder echoing through the mountains like the drums of war. They were soaked and shivering as they made their descent, the path now slippery and treacherous. Back at Tom's shelter, as they dried off and warmed themselves by the fire, both felt a sense of accomplishment mingled with foreboding. They had taken the first true steps towards repairing Alira's spacecraft, but each step forward seemed to deepen the shadows around them, hinting at challenges yet to come. The storm lingered for days, trapping Tom and Alira within the confines of the modest shelter. The relentless rain drummed on the roof, a constant reminder of the isolated and precarious nature of their situation. Inside, the air grew thick with the smell of damp wood and the tang of metal from the alien technology that Alira had begun to assemble in a corner of the room. During the enforced confinement, Alira taught Tom about her technology, her voice echoing softly against the wooden walls. She explained the principles of her propulsion systems, the delicate intricacies of interstellar navigation, and the complex language of her people, written in swirling scripts that seemed to shift and change as if alive. Tom, in turn, shared more about the planet, a place he had come to know with an intimacy that spoke of long, solitary years. He described the patterns of the flora and fauna, the cycles of the seasons, and the legends of ancient visitors whispered by the winds, anecdotes that now seemed less like myths and more like veiled histories. Their collaboration deepened, a fusion of Alira's celestial knowledge and Tom's terrestrial wisdom. Together, they pieced together a makeshift lab filled with odd contraptions and devices that hummed and flickered, breathing life back into the alien components. One evening, as twilight melded with the shadows of the still stormy sky, Alira's device suddenly emitted a sharp, piercing signal. The screen displayed a series of rapid, rhythmic pulses that Alira recognized. A distress signal, ancient and automated, emanating from deeper within the planet. This signal... Alira paused, her finger hovering over the blinking light on the screen. It's old, incredibly old. It could be from a ship of my people long before mine crashed. Tom looked over her shoulder, his brow furrowed. That might mean more of your technology is out here, possibly more advanced and intact, but it also means venturing deeper into uncharted territories. The decision to investigate the signal was fraught with danger, yet the potential to find a way to accelerate her repairs and possibly communicate with her people spurred Alira on. They planned their expedition meticulously, waiting for the storm to break. When the skies finally cleared, they set out at dawn, the ground soggy underfoot, but the air fresh with the scent of renewal. Their route took them through dense jungles where sunlight barely touched the ground. Vines hung like the tangled strings of some great cosmic instrument, and every step stirred up the sense of earth and life. Alira and Tom moved with a quiet urgency, guided by the pulsing beacon on her device. As they traveled, the jungle began to give way to a landscape that seemed increasingly manipulated, less wild. They stumbled upon smooth clearings and geometric stone formations that nature could not have wrought. Tom examined the surroundings with a mix of fascination and unease. "These look like landing marks," he murmured, running his hands over the smooth stones. "They've been weathered over, but these were made, not formed." The signal grew stronger as they approached a massive structure, half collapsed, its architecture a blend of natural stone and unmistakable alien technology. It was a ruin, vast and enigmatic, swallowed by the jungle but still pulsing with a weak yet resilient power. Inside, they found the source of the signal, a beacon still active, guarded by a series of holographic projections that flickered to life at their approach. Images of distant worlds, maps of star routes, and faces of beings neither human nor like Alira's people danced in the air before them. Tom watched, wide-eyed, as Alira interacted with the controls, her hands moving with practiced ease. "This is a waypoint station," she explained, her voice a mix of excitement and nostalgia. "It was used by my ancestors to chart paths through the stars." The discovery was monumental, a link to her past and a beacon of hope for her future. Yet as the holograms played out scenes of cosmic journeys and ancient dialogues, a deeper, more unsettling truth began to emerge. The station had not only been a mapmaker's haven, but also a watcher's outpost, suggesting that her people had been aware of this planet, and perhaps its inhabitants, far longer than anyone on her ship had known. As Alira delved deeper into the station's archives, the layers of history unfolded, revealing a narrative that was as much about surveillance as it was about exploration. Each holographic entry detailed observations not only of the celestial phenomena, but also of the evolutionary progress of the planet's life forms, including early humans. The implications were profound. Her people had not just stumbled upon this world by chance, but had been part of its history, silent observers shaping the path of its development. Tom's expression darkened as he processed the revelations. "Your ancestors, they were here, watching, experimenting?" he asked, his voice a mixture of awe and unease. "Not experimenting, more like guiding, ensuring that life here could survive cosmic events. It seems they had a non-interference policy, but they intervened when extinction was a real threat," Alira explained, her eyes never leaving the flickering images. Their discovery suggested a responsibility that Alira felt weighing heavily on her shoulders. The station, a relic of her people's guardianship, now rested in part on her. As she navigated through the data, a plan began to form in her mind. One that could leverage this ancient outpost to boost her communication signals back to her home planet. The duo spent several days at the site, using its resources to repair and enhance the communication device Alira had been building. Tom's practical knowledge of the planet's materials combined with Alira's technical expertise allowed them to create a makeshift transmitter powerful enough to send a distress signal to her star system. As they prepared for the transmission, the station provided one last piece of ancient technology, a defensive mechanism that had lain dormant until now. It was designed to protect the station from any intrusions, using non-lethal means to incapacitate and deter. Alira reactivated it, ensuring their safety while they worked. With everything in place, Alira initiated the transmission sequence. The station hummed to life, its core illuminating with a soft, pulsing glow. The signal, carrying all of Alira's hopes, shot into the cosmos, piercing the void between stars. As they awaited a response, days turned into nights, filled with discussions about what responses might come, both from Alira's people and from other unknown civilizations that might intercept the signal. The potential of initiating first contact with other spacefaring societies brought a mix of excitement and trepidation. During this waiting period, their bond grew stronger, no longer just companions by circumstance, but true partners. They shared personal stories, hopes and fears. Tom spoke of his early days on the planet, the loneliness and the resolve it took to survive, while Alira shared tales of the cosmos, of nebulae that sang in radio waves and planets where the rains were liquid glass. One quiet evening, as they watched the stars emerge one by one, a faint reply finally echoed through their equipment, a series of structured pulses, unmistakably artificial yet not from her people. The signal was weak, garbled, but it was there, an answer from the void. "This means there are others out there. Maybe not your people, but someone heard us," Tom said, his voice a mixture of wonder and concern. Alira nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to decode this response, understand who is out there. This changes everything." They set to work with renewed vigor, deciphering the complex language of the stars. As they did, they remained unaware that their activities had not gone unnoticed. The ancient guardianship program embedded in the station had triggered a silent alarm, an alert that rippled across space, reaching not only potential allies, but also those who might see the newly awakened station as a threat or an opportunity. Unseen by them, far above in the blackness of space, eyes turned toward the vibrant blue planet, drawn by the beacon of the ancient watchers. The story of Tom and Alira, intertwined with the fates of distant beings, was about to enter a new chapter as forces beyond their understanding began to stir, moving towards them with intentions as varied as the stars themselves. Under the vast starlit sky, the station's ancient systems whirred and clicked, a symphony of old gears meshing with new purpose. Alira and Tom worked tirelessly to decode the alien message, each pulse potentially a word, every pattern possibly a sentence. The complexity of the signal suggested a highly advanced civilization, one that communicated in layers of meaning, compressed into bursts of data. Their efforts gradually bore fruit as the language began to unfold, revealing a greeting, a cautious probe sent out into the cosmos to test their intentions. The sender remained unknown, a mysterious caller from the depths of space, but the tone was one of curiosity rather than hostility. "This is like nothing I've seen," Alira said, her fingers dancing across the interface as she isolated strands of meaning. "It's not just a message, it's almost like music, a composition of thoughts." Tom, ever the pragmatist, kept an eye on the defensive systems. "Music or not, we should be careful. We don't know who's on the other end of this conversation." As they engaged with the unknown sender, back-and-forth exchanges grew into a complex dialogue. The entity on the other side seemed to be assessing their capabilities and intentions, slowly warming up to them as trust was tentatively built. The messages evolved, indicating a desire to meet, to learn from each other, to perhaps forge a relationship that could bridge the vast distances between stars. Meanwhile, the planet itself seemed to react to the reawakening of the station. The wildlife became restless, more active during the night. The plants around the station grew at an accelerated rate, as if fed by some unseen energy. It was as if the station's operations were resonating with the very biosphere of the planet, awakening an intrinsic connection that had lain dormant since the time of the Watchers. This phenomenon did not go unnoticed by the planet's more sentient inhabitants. Far from Tom's shelter, hidden enclaves of a technologically adept tribe began to stir. These people, descendants of those once observed by Alira's ancestors, had their myths and legends about the Star Watchers. The reactivation of the station was seen as a sign, a fulfillment of prophecies long held in their collective memory. One night, as Alira and Tom analyzed the latest set of data, a group from the tribe approached the shelter. They were led by their elder, a woman named Maela, who bore the marks of her leadership in intricate tattoos that mirrored the star maps Alira had shown Tom. "We have watched you, as you have rekindled the eyes of the ancients," Maela spoke, her voice firm yet open. "We must understand why now. Why here?" Their arrival marked a turning point, a moment when the past and present collided, bringing together the descendants of the Watched and the lineage of the Watchers. Maela and her people shared their history, oral tales handed down through generations that spoke of times when the stars would speak and the earth would answer. Alira listened, her heart heavy with the responsibility of her heritage. "We came back to life here by chance," she explained, "but perhaps there's more to it. Maybe it's time for a new era of watching and listening." Together, they decided to expand their communication efforts, using the station not just to reach out into the void, but to forge deeper connections with those on the planet. Maela's people could provide insights into the planet's changes, observations that were crucial for understanding the global effects of the station's activation. As the planetary and cosmic communications intertwined, the network of interactions grew. Each message sent out into the void brought responses, each more enlightening than the last, drawing a map of potential allies and watchers in the cosmos. But with each connection made, the risks grew. The signals were like beacons, not just to those with benign intentions, but also to others whose motives were cloaked in the shadows between stars. The universe was listening, and not all who heard were friends. As Alira and Tom gazed up at the stars, the weight of their next steps bore down upon them. A reminder that in the vast expanse of space, every light might attract both navigators and predators alike. As the network of cosmic communications expanded, the responses became more frequent and varied, painting a complex picture of the galactic neighborhood. Some were cautious, others curious, and a few unmistakably wary. Alira and Tom, along with Maela and her tribe, stood at the nexus of these converging interests, a small point on a vast map that had suddenly drawn much attention. In their makeshift lab within the station, Alira and Tom pored over the transmissions, decoding and categorizing them. The complexity of managing interstellar diplomacy grew as they attempted to navigate the nuanced postures of their cosmic neighbors. It was a delicate balance, maintaining transparency with their new allies on the ground while guarding against potential threats from above. One evening, as the sky darkened with the promise of a storm, a new signal pierced through the cacophony of cosmic chatter, a direct and deliberate message from a coalition of spacefaring civilizations. They introduced themselves as the Custodians, a collective that maintained peace and order in this sector of the galaxy. Their message was clear. The reactivation of the ancient station had violated several interstellar accords, drawing their attention and concern. "The Custodians wish to visit," Alira translated for the group gathered around the holographic display. "They want to ensure that the station will not be used for aggression or to disrupt the balance of power." The implications were profound. This was not merely a social call. It was an inspection, a test of their intentions and capabilities. Preparations began immediately for the arrival of the Custodians. Maela's people brought forth their knowledge of ancient ceremonial practices, hoping to bridge cultural gaps with respect and dignity. Tom adapted the station's systems for communication, turning tools of observation into instruments of diplomacy. The day of the arrival was marked by a rare celestial alignment, the local moons and distant planets lining up in a display that bathed the planet in a spectrum of ethereal light. The Custodian's ship descended, a marvel of engineering, its hull reflecting the starlight in mesmerizing patterns. The delegation was small but diverse, representing several species, each a member of the Custodian coalition. Their leader, a being named Elos, approached Alira and her companions with a demeanor of quiet authority. "We have observed your actions since the station's reactivation," Elos began, their voice a harmonic blend of tones. "Your intentions seem aligned with peace, but the tools at your disposal are potent. We must ensure they are not misused." Alira responded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We understand the concerns of the custodians and share your commitment to peace. We seek only to connect with our people and explore the bonds that tie us to this planet and beyond." The discussions that followed were intense and thorough. Elos and their companions examined the station's systems, reviewed the communications sent and received, and listened carefully to the history shared by Maela's people. It became clear that the station was more than a relic. It was a bridge between the past and future, between the planet and the stars. Convinced of their peaceful intent, the custodians agreed to a provisional membership for the planet in their coalition, with stipulations for oversight and further cultural exchange. In return, they offered assistance in establishing a formal embassy on the planet, a place where dialogue between the stars and the soil could continue. As the custodians' ship ascended, leaving behind a planet now formally recognized as a community of the cosmos, Tom, Alira, and Maela looked on. Their world had changed, grown larger yet more interconnected. The challenges ahead were daunting, but the promise of a future where they could stand as equals in the galaxy gave them hope. In the quiet that followed, as the first stars of evening appeared, Alira turned to Tom and Maela. "This is just the beginning," she said, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "The station, this planet, us, we're all part of a larger story now, one that we'll write together." And under the vast canopy of the universe, with the echoes of ancient watchers whispering in the wind, their shared story, woven from strands of earth and stardust, continued to unfold, a testament to the enduring quest for understanding and unity in the infinite tapestry of space.